Hi, this is Lisa, and you are listening to I Love That Movie. This podcast is for movie lovers. It's not an unbiased opinion, it's not a straightforward review, it's just a couple people talking about a movie that they love. The format is each week I have a guest, and that guest and I discuss a movie that they love, something they're obsessed with, something they connect with. We'll talk about the plot, the director, and the actors, but we'll also talk about the personal connection my guest has with that movie. So if that sounds like something you want to listen to, keep listening.
Hey, this is Lisa, and if you want to catch up with me, you can find me on Twitter at ILTM Podcast. I'm also on Instagram at I Love That Movie Podcast, and this show has a Patreon. The show is always free, but if you want to support us on there, you can. That's at patreon.com/I Love That Movie. And I did want to take a moment to thank our top patrons, and they are Philip Barker, Michael Cross, and Josh Johnson. Thank you guys so much for keeping the lights on. If you do sign up, you do get a weekly bonus episode of just everything else I'm watching that week. But I would like to take a moment to thank my guest for today. Say hi, Katie from Slice of Film.
Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing today?
Doing well, Katie. If people haven't heard you on the show before, could you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so my name's Katie. I host two podcasts, a Star Wars podcast called Star Wars Alliance, and then I host Slice of Film, which is another film review podcast. I am also a senior critic for Full Circle Cinema, so if you're interested in written reviews and sometimes features, you can check it out there, because that is the host of basically all my writing. So
Very cool. Well, Katie, thank you again for coming on. And my guest actually picks the movie. So what movie did you choose to talk about today?
So I know he's a little controversial right now, but I grew up watching Pirates of the Caribbean in
Yes.
secret, might I have you, because my dad hated Johnny Depp with passion.
Oh, really? Tell us about that.
Yes.
Why did he hate him in particular?
So my dad's a hardcore conservative,
Mm.
and always believes like, oh, you should like love America, you should want to live in America, like don't do anything. I don't agree with most of what he says. Like you could fix things while still loving your country and stuff.
Yeah.
But Depp had said some things about I believe it was Bush at the time. And so
Oh,
it was
okay.
like
Gosh, I don't even remember
he
that.
did not like that at all.
Ah, I see.
So we were not allowed to have Johnny Depp in the house. However, the few friends I had loved these movies a lot.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and my mom actually fell in love with these movies. And my mom is, if you know her, she's not a huge movie person at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So she got around my dad's, we're never going to pay anything to go see Johnny Depp or buy anything Johnny Depp related by getting the movies through the library. Support your
Oh
local
my
library.
gosh, it was like you guys are in cahoots about
Mm-hmm.
this. That's pretty funny. For me, I actually saw this in theaters. Um, so my story of this film is that I remember when the ads came out for it, and they talked about how they were making a movie literally based on the ride at Disneyland or Disney World. And, I'd been on that ride. I'd been to both Disneyland and Disney World. And when they announced it, I remember my very close friend saying, that sounds so stupid. That movie's going to be awful. It's based on a ride. That's dumb. And I remember thinking, we don't really have any pirate films, any at least current ones that people really like. And I thought, I don't know, it's Disney and they have a lot of money. And if they have a good, cast, it might be fine. So I went into it with an open mind. I remember seeing the first one in theaters. We will call this, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. And when I saw that, I was like, I don't remember it being called that. That is because the title was originally just Pirates of the Caribbean. but the subtitle, The Curse of the Black Pearl, was actually added at the request of then Disney chairman Mike Eisner 5 months prior to the film release, in case it was successful enough to warrant sequels, as well as appeal to adolescent audiences. Apparently, Gore Verbinski, the director, greatly disliked this edition because it is the Aztec gold that is cursed, not the Black Pearl ship. As a compromise, Disney's marketing department agreed to print the subtitle in as small font as possible for promotional materials. I was actually like, I don't remember the plot being about the Black Pearl. And then when I was reading the description again, I always do after, even though I watch a lot of movies, I'll still like read through the plot. Just, I don't know. I have a bad memory, I guess. And I like to like reread things.
Oh, I do too.
But it I was like, Aztec gold, interesting that this is called the Black Pearl. Well, now we know why. Because I remember, and also I'm just going to call myself out. Katie and I were having a discussion before recording about, do we say Caribbean? Do we say Caribbean? And I like Katie's answer that it's probably like an older pronunciation of it, because Pirates of the Caribbean just doesn't sound very exciting. It sounds like Pirates of the Florida Keys, or I don't know. It just doesn't sound exciting. So, but I remember seeing the movie and it being like an instant hit. I just remember walking out of there like, oh, that was really good. And like the friend that said that, I think ended up being a way bigger fan than me. Saw all of the movies in theaters. I didn't really, I mean, I love this first one. The others, I'd watch them if they're on, but I'm not super in love with them. But this film really changed the controversial figure you just mentioned, Johnny Depp's life, like forever. Like, I mean, he was a star obviously before this, but this made him a superstar.
Absolutely. And, for me, like, so I got started watching these again recently because, well, I've only watched this one so far, but Matt was like, when are we going to watch Pirates? Apparently, he's brought it up a couple of times previously, and I have a terrible memory. And he has never seen Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. He has not seen a lot of movies as it comes.
Oh, yeah. You said he's not really a big movie guy. That's fine.
Yeah. Like, my dad always, like, enjoyed movies. So before we started, like, sports and stuff, we would always get, like, started, like, on weekends, like, Friday and Saturday night would be movie night. Like, we'd make dinner, we'd sit down, like, watch a movie. And that was kind of what we did, like, before we started, with sports and stuff. And so, like, I just found, like, a great love for it. And plus, like, it's always nice to, like, escape to a fictional world kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important, like, to me, and Matt's kind of like embraced it. We both have Regal Unlimited memberships now because we go see so many movies.
Oh, good.
And like, I honestly thought we got eloped. Or we eloped, not we got eloped. But
somebody eloped you. I like that better.
And I honestly thought, like, okay, we're both huge football people. And we're both huge movie people. Of course, our wedding, elopement, whatever you want to call it, was at, like, it was December 31st, 2020. So it was like in the middle of COVID, basically. So it was like, what do you do? Movie theaters are closed right now. Like, obviously I could call a movie theater manager probably and go, hey, I want to, like, have a ceremony here or something.
Mm-hmm.
But like, would they actually do it? So we did it at Clemson, but I honestly considered, like, could we do a movie theater or something? But yeah, it I just love being able to lose yourself in a new world so much, and I think Pirates of the Caribbean accomplishes that so much, because it's not like your typical, like, Regency era film where, like, oh, it's like all these fine dresses and stuff, and you're going to dances and stuff. Like, you still get, like, a little fine dress, obviously, because we have the beginning and the end of the film. But in the midst, you have great action. You have funny characters. I remember laughing so hard at Johnny Depp and, like, his running. And like, oh, and just, like, kind of like having a blast with him as, like, he tries to get the Black Pearl back, and bargaining with Barbossa, who's played by Jeffrey Rush. Like, super hysterical. I love it. if I had not fallen in love with Orlando Bloom as Legolas in The Lord of the Rings, I would have fallen in love with him in this movie as um
Will Turner.
Will Turner.
Yes. And on that note, we're not going to be spoiler free in this episode. So we're going to talk all about it. So if you haven't seen it, believe you can find these on Disney Plus, I'm assuming.
Yes.
But if not, here is the synopsis. It's going to be very short. Pirates of the Caribbean is an American fantasy supernatural swashbuckler film series produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and based on Walt Disney's theme park attraction of the same name. The film series serves as a major component of the eponymous media franchise. Hopefully I said that right. And that's more of an overview of the movies as a whole, but we're going to be talking today specifically about the Curse of the Black Pearl. Yes, and so we've already kind of I shared one quick fact about the title, but another one that I wanted to share was just that the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is the 10th highest growing franchise ever, which is just amazing to think about. Not something I was thinking about at all when I watched the first one. But Katie, I completely agree with you. There's something different about this pirate film. Like if I try to think about earlier pirate films before this one that I can remember, the most recent one before this was probably Cutthroat Island. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think so.
Okay. It is bad. At the same time, I kind of want someone to pick it because there's good things about it. And I remember like this came out in 1995. It stars Gina Davis, and I think it was her husband, I want to say, that helped produce it because I think he was the same one that let me look. I'm looking at IMDb. I feel like he was the producer for The Long Kiss Goodnight in this. And like I think he was kind of hoping to make her like this big famous action female star, and I think the world just kind of wasn't ready for it. So what's unique about Cutthroat Island is like the main character is Gina Davis, and she's like this tough pirate chick, which is really cool and great. It's just the movie's terrible. So like if the movie had been good, like it would have been awesome because, it's a great concept, pirates are fun, but it just wasn't a good movie. And then other movies I can think of, let's see, when did Muppet Treasure Island. Really like that movie. Again, I know it's a Muppet film, but I thought it was a good pirate film. And then obviously beyond that, I think we have to look all the way back to like probably like black and white film days where swashbuckling adventures were like a lot more popular. But we hadn't had something like this in a really long time. And what's unique about this movie, as you compare it even to like Cutthroat Island or some of the others, is the fantasy factor is just much bigger. I think, there's a lot more magic. And I think when it comes to pirate stuff, you got to have like the sea creatures, you got to have the magic. That is really, that romanticized version of who pirates are is what makes us so interested, I think, because at the face of it, I mean, they're basically just thieves, right? But like what makes them exciting? It's all the lore and the fantasy behind it. So I think Disney made a really good call here with this film. Having that IP behind it of the ride, people are at least familiar with that, was a buy-in. And then of course, as we mentioned before, I think Johnny Depp and also the producer, Jerry Bruckheimer, who, brought us stuff like CSI and, a lot of big things. He's obviously it's referred to as like Jerry Bruckheimer's Pirates of the Caribbean. Had a lot to do with its success as well. And good call, changing the label of it because obviously there have been a lot of movies since then.
Yeah. And like you said, like, oh, this one is the one that really kicks it for you. Like I think the first three, specifically because they have Will and Elizabeth involved, for me, like I love these movies and I think they're a really good way to like track character growth and everything through the first three. It's when you get to the fourth and fifth where it's just Johnny Depp and you gotta go, okay, this is getting a little too crazy.
I feel like Johnny Depp's character is too much of like a loose cannon, and it's better when someone is like reining him in. When it's just like he's better as like a fun side character. I mean, he's front and center in the posters, but he's kind of like he's not like a 100% good guy. I mean, he's a pirate, and I think having Will Turner as the main character is better because he's like the shiny good guy, and they kind of balance each other out. But if it's just him, yeah, I think by the third or fourth one is where I kind of started to drop off. So I would agree with that.
Yeah.
What do you think of like the plot of this one, to sort of kick off the series?
I think this is a really good introduction to all of the characters involved, and I really think it's like a good lesson in how to like the whole franchise. I think this is a good lesson about how to maintain a cast of characters that you can all really relate to and then kind of bond to, because like even some of the pirate crew on the Black Pearl, like they're minor characters and like they might only have like one or two lines in this movie, but you go to like see them behind the scenes and you can go, oh, that would be who I was if I was on a pirate ship, kind of thing. Curse of the Black Pearl is a really good introduction for all of these characters. And I mean, Geoffrey Rush was such a hit. Like we've already given the spoiler warning, but like he dies in this movie, but then they choose to bring him back later on because he's so good. And so I think that just it means a lot. And I could have seen this franchise go on forever if Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom had wanted to stay attached to it.
Yeah. And I think like in like the first part of the film, we meet like Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann as kids. She discovers like that golden pirate medallion around Will's neck and takes it. But then 8 years later, James Norrington is promoted to commandeer and proposes to Elizabeth, but her corset makes her faint and fall into the sea right away, kind of setting up like she's not going to be like your typical female character. She's going to have a little more agency. She doesn't like her corset. but when she falls in the sea, the medallion emits a pulse. So now we're like, okay, we're getting into magic territory here, which is going to be fun. And then having just arrived in the port to commandeer a ship, Jack Sparrow rescues Elizabeth. Norrington identifies Jack as a pirate and a chase ensues, and then Jack encounters Will, who is now a blacksmith. They duel, and then Jack is imprisoned. And then later, like the night the crew of the Black Pearl attacks Port Royal searching for the medallion, the pirates capture Elizabeth, taking her to meet Barbossa. That's where Elizabeth pretends to be of the last name Turner because she doesn't want them to know she's the governor's daughter. But Barbossa explains the medallion is the last of 882 gold pieces his crew took from a lost treasure of Hernan Cortez on Isla de Muerta, which means, Island of Death. Cortez had accepted the treasure as payment to prevent the fall of Tenochtitlan, but did not fulfill his part of the bargain. So the Aztec gods cursed the treasure. Barbossa and any members of his crew who took the coins are cursed and become undead, who can only feel endless hunger and pain, and whose true skeletal forms are revealed in the moonlight. So they're basically like the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But to lift this curse... Oh, go ahead.
I remember this being like one of the first like creepy movies I ever saw, specifically because of the skeletal forms. And like I was so shocked because I didn't really understand what Barbossa was truly saying. And then like you think like this movie came out in 2003. I was 8. I probably saw this when I was like 10, 9 or 10. And you just like looking at it, and then he like steps out and like, oh my gosh, and you just see everybody around, like the entire crew, like just performing their tasks, but they're all skeletons. And it's like, even to this day, like this movie's 20 years old almost.
Yeah.
And it looks so freaking good. Like, it has aged incredibly well.
Oh, yeah. So I was, an adult when this came out, and I still found it creepy. Like I think that was part of the part of the movie, and it, happens early on, but it's like, you're like, okay, now I'm sold. Like, this is like, I don't know why people haven't made movies like this before. Like, this is the fun pirate stuff you think about when you're like a child, And so, the Aztec gods curse this treasure. And so they appear undead in the moonlight. I guess they can leave their ship. For some reason, I remembered thinking they couldn't leave the ship, but I guess it's just that they choose to stay on that ship because
I
their
think that's maybe one of
identities
the
are
other
revealed.
movies.
Yeah, it might be one of the other ones. But yeah, to lift the curse, they have to return the treasure, every single coin, stained with either the taker's blood or the blood of a direct relative. So, assuming that Elizabeth is the daughter of Bill Turner, Barbossa tried to drown her, discovering he sent the medallion to his child. Barbossa decides to use her blood on the medallion. So that's kind of what happened so far. But yeah, I remember like them looking so creepy, and the CG and all that was really good. I mean, I remember back then thinking it looked great. And yeah, even upon revisiting, it is a really pretty movie.
Yeah. And like even like going back to like kind of like the opening scene and then like um when like you have, oh my gosh, why can't I think straight this morning?
No, you're
It's so
fine.
funny. Um so like going back when Jack rescues Elizabeth after she falls off because of her corset and
Yeah.
stuff, and then he ends up escaping and ends up in Will Turner's apprentice shop where he's
Mhm.
learning how to make swords, and just kind of like that action scene, that like fight scene, it
Mhm.
it draws up a very nice tension, and it's well played by um Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom in order to create this kind of bond, but also like
Mhm.
hatred of one another. Then like it really does change over the course of the film in a really nice way that
Mhm.
truly feels organic, because in most cases, especially with like some of today's movies, you have a scene like that. Fast and Furious is a great example. You have a fight scene and you're like, oh yeah, we're enemies. But then like after the fight scene, like they're like complete friends, like nothing to say about like the other, like maybe a joke here and then about like, oh well, you did try to kill me. And stuff, but like that doesn't feel organic. This feels like completely organic. Like they're enemies from the start. And then slowly Will Turner starts to see, okay, this isn't like as bad as I thought it was going to be, kind of thing. So
Yeah. I think Johnny Depp's portrayal of Jack Sparrow is so interesting because I think I had read that like he kind of combines sort of pirates with like Mick Jagger a little bit, and you can really see
yeah,
that there's this sort of like rock star quality to him, which makes sense. Like pirates are outlaws, and it's a way to kind of give, I think, sort of like a modern vibe to something that is, obviously very retro historical, but he kind of
yeah,
has this sort of like, I don't know, British rock star kind of vibe to him. And it's really convincing. I don't think that Johnny Depp could necessarily play like like a convincing, like, I don't know what a normal pirate is, but you know what I mean? Like, I
yeah,
think the way he plays it makes it a lot more endearing and interesting. And even though he's one of the heroes of the film, he's really not the main hero. I think he's sort of, outlandish and drunk and like swashbuckling and fun. But I think that I think all the little like stylistic elements and stuff that he brought to the character are very interesting, and they're why people like that character so much. Why you see so many Jack
yeah,
Sparrows around Halloween. I mean, it was like almost like instantly iconic for sure.
yeah. And I'm just now learning that the character was actually written specifically for Hugh Jackman.
Oh,
And I'm like,
interesting. I
what
heard
would
De
that have
Niro
been?
was attached to it at one point too. Robert De Niro,
Yeah,
which
so De Niro was originally looked at for Barbossa, but De
oh,
Niro
okay, not
turned the
so
film
Jeffrey
down.
Rush's character. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And De Niro turned it down because he expected the film to flop like previous Pirates films had done.
Yeah,
So,
it's hard to make a pirate film. It really is. Like people don't end up liking them usually.
and I mean, we saw that like specifically with like Margot Robbie's female Pirates movie that was like so fawned over on Twitter, but like now you look at it and you're like, not actually gonna happen now. So
Yeah, I don't even remember that, but yeah, it's very hard to get people invested in a pirate movie. It just is.
mm,
Um, this one was really good and it's hard to duplicate, I guess. It just had all the right elements to it. But yeah,
yeah.
I could see Hugh Jackman as being a fun Jack Sparrow, but I think he would be a very different Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, like I don't think we would have gotten like the Jack Sparrow look we would have gotten.
Yeah.
And I almost would be afraid that Jackman would have tried to turn it into like a musical type thing.
Yeah, he's really good at that. And I feel like Jack Sparrow would have been more of a goody goody. I don't see,
Yeah.
you know, I just don't see Hugh Jackman as somebody portraying like a bad guy. I mean, I guess Wolverine's a little bit gray, but yeah, it's like, would he be really angry or would he be goofy? It's hard to know, but it would definitely be a different character. And I think, I mean, again, controversial figure, but I think the way that Johnny Depp portrays Jack Sparrow is part of the appeal to the movies. He's like our in, like, even though it's a period piece, I think the way he's playing it feels like modern enough to where it kind of pulls the audience in a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it would have been a very different film. Not sure I would have liked it as much, but yeah. Do you have some, particularly favorite scenes in this first one that you wanted to talk about?
So the one that I immediately go to is when Will is kind of talking about his father and stuff,
Mhm.
and it's before Tortuga, when Will is like, my father was not a pirate, and then Johnny, or keep wanting to call him Johnny, Jack Sparrow just like knocks him
Johnny,
over
Jack, yeah.
with the sail, I guess, part. I
Mhm.
don't I don't know the pieces of a ship.
Me neither.
Um but he knocks him over, so he's like holding over the water,
Mhm.
and he's like, you can accept that your dad was a pirate, a bloody good pirate, or you can just leave and I'll just go on my merry way. Um and so they have to like learn to work together, but that's like a turning moment for them in a really good way.
Yeah.
um what did you think about that scene?
Yeah, I think, that is something that the main character wrestles with, right? Like, and I think it's meant to convey to the audience too, like, maybe we wrestle with a little bit, are pirates good or bad,
Hmm.
this movie is about pirates. But it starts with a character who's not really a pirate. He's kind of a blacksmith that has this stain hanging over his head that his dad was a pirate, possibly. And he's not comfortable with that. But yeah, I think it's a good way to set up like the character growth that Will Turner's eventually going to have. And the audience as a whole is going to learn, pirates aren't bad, basically.
Yeah. The next scene for me is kind of the ending scene, um with when Norrington actually accepts Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is like, go save him as a wedding present to me. And we all know that's BS. Like,
Yeah.
even before like the end of the movie, when like you first see it, it's like totally BS.
Mhm.
But he like agrees. And so he goes to Isla de Muerta, and like just getting Jack out there and then having like the fight scene at the end, um between Barbosa and Jack,
Mhm.
and then Will and the other pirates, kind of playing back and forth between them, but also getting to see, oh, Barbosa's screwed because Jack took a coin and
Mhm.
the whole thing. So it's it's a really fun scene that's well choreographed to kind of like show Jack and then Will going back and forth. But then in the end, you've got like Will manages to get his pirates to explode, and then Will like just gets the coins from himself and then from Jack and drops them in, and then everybody gets to die. Like, everybody's been fighting going, oh yeah, I'm invincible, like no problem whatsoever, but then like
Mhm.
you get that and it's like, oh crap.
The stakes are real now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really good scene. I like you talked about earlier, but like the reveal that they're undead, that was like a really fun scene to me.
Yeah.
And that probably made me think, oh my gosh, this is pulling me into the movie so much more. Like that's really cool. Also, the iconic scene where Johnny Depp steps off the sinking ship onto the dock.
Mhm.
That's really fun.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And
Um,
he's like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna go underwater, and I'm not gonna have to like worry about anything because it's just nobody's gonna know it's there." And
right.
then the little tiny like part of the top is still there. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And, like, the part with where you see, like, all the pirate treasure, like, in the caves totally reminds me of, like, Goonies or something, like, it's just really
Yeah.
fun and, um, exciting, and you already mentioned it a few times, but the relationship between Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom, Orlando Bloom being sort of more like the, I guess, the more classic hero type character, like, the sort of like Errol Flynn of the movie. He's even kinda got that classic look to him with the blonde hair and everything.
Yeah.
Um, he got this role because obviously of Lord of the Rings, right? Like, everyone was in love with him as Legolas, and so, they were like, "He's the best choice for this." And I think he is really good. At times, I almost feel like, and this is not his fault, but maybe more of a character choice of the time, like, of the writing, like, he definitely doesn't come across as, like, as strong of a character as Jack Sparrow, but it's hard to compete with Jack
Yeah.
Sparrow when he's on screen, so I understand that. But
It
he's
is
sorta
a
like the
lot, but
straight-laced
like
version. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't necessarily think that like that's a bad thing
Oh,
that
no.
he's like a weaker character, but it's like they play really well together in this trio. Like, it's Jack Sparrow, and then behind him is Elizabeth and Will.
Right,
Like,
right. They're
that
like the
is your starring
classic
trio.
good-looking couple that's supposed to be the main characters, but he kind of eclipses them because he's such a strong presence, which is fine. I think the movie wants you to feel that way. Can you
Yeah.
believe, Keira Knightley was only, like, 18 in this movie?
Was she only
That's
18? Because
that's what some of the things said, but I guess I'd have to look up her actual age. Okay, let me look
so
it up.
okay, she was born in 1985. So yeah, she was 18 in this, right?
Crazy.
My math is good?
I think so, but she looks older than that. I think she just does, but yeah, she was only 18.
Well, because she filmed I knew she was like 16, 17 at the time of Phantom Menace.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because she plays Sabe in the Phantom Menace, like the main double for
Oh, that makes sense because they look alike. Like, her
yeah.
and her and Natalie Portman look a lot alike. I think Keira Knightley's a lot taller, though, but I think they look very similar. And that was kinda like
Yeah.
the classic popular look at the time too, I think, of starlets.
Yeah, she was 14 in the filming of Phantom
Wow.
Menace.
Wow, that's young.
Um, but yeah, she went through a lot of films after the fact.
Mhm.
Um, and like Bend It Like Beckham was how she got the Curse of the Black Pearl
Oh,
role.
interesting. Yeah, she's been
What if
around a long time. Had a long career.
yeah. And well, you think about it, and like this definitely launched her career, I feel like, into the stratosphere
Yeah,
because like she then like pulled in stuff like Pride and Prejudice,
yeah, a
and
lot
some
of
other
period
things.
piece movies, yeah.
Yeah. Um, haven't really seen anything with her recently other than like Boston Strangler. Boston Strangler was good though.
Yeah, I've heard that was good, that's on my list for sure. Looks like she was in Silent Night, which I didn't end up seeing, but, yeah, she's had a long career, and this definitely cemented her as a period actress for a time. She did those
Mhm.
roles really well, but yeah, you're right, it is the trio of them that's important, sort of almost Star Wars-ish there. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, she could be Princess Leia, and Turner's Luke, and I guess Jack Sparrow would be Han? I don't know. Should I keep going with this analogy? I don't know if it makes sense. But anyway, it's really good nonetheless. And I
Yeah.
think this movie struck a really good balance in, like, all the costumes look fabulous. The set pieces look amazing. It has that sort of like really good time period feel to the movie, like where things look accurate and are done well, but at the same time have that fantasy element to it also. Because sometimes I feel like one suffers over the other, but in this one, probably because it's Disney, it's just like a really good balance.
Yeah.
But any other
So,
scenes? Oh, go ahead.
one of the side characters that I did not realize actually was in here
Uh-huh.
initially, is one of the most highest grossing actresses of all time, Zoe Saldana.
When you said that earlier, I was like, I didn't realize she was in this movie. She
Yeah.
has like a brief part, right? As like a pirate.
Yeah, so she's like a former girlfriend, um, or I don't know if former girlfriend, but somebody who Jack has definitely flirted with. Um, but Jack actually offers her the Interceptor in order to
Oh,
like
that's right.
keep her as part of the part of the crew.
Hmm.
So, I think like what little she's in here is good. I think this is where's her filmography? Yeah, this is one of her most earlier films.
Wow.
Because she didn't get Star Trek came out 6 years later along with Avatar. And
Wow.
those are two of her most highest grossing films. And then obviously you get into the MCU later on. But yeah, to be a part of like this franchise, like this one doesn't necessarily get into like box office charts, but
Okay.
like you look at Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides 1.05 billion, and then Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest was 1.066 billion.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Yeah, these movies make bank. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, it's incredible how much these films make. Yeah, I did not know that about her. I don't recall, does she play a bigger part in the following movies, or do you feel like they set up that character but then decided to go maybe in another direction? Because I don't recall her in the other films.
Yeah, I think this is the only one she's in.
Mhm.
But yeah, I still think it's like an accomplishment to like especially start your career with something because I mean the budget for Curse of the Black Pearl was 140 million, which is big money in the early 2000s. And they pulled in 654.3 million. So,
Wow. Yeah, incredible. Um, the world was never the same. It got to a point, I think, towards the end where people were like, okay, there's too many of these movies now. It's like so many of them being made. But I mean, I remember seeing it at least the first two or three in theaters, like, definitely being sold on this movie and continuing to come back after. So it's a really fun, um, it's a fun idea. And, ironically, I don't think I told you this, but recently I was at Scarborough Fair and it was like Pirate Day and I dressed up as a pirate and I was like, being a pirate's fun. By dressed up as a pirate, I mean I bought things on Amazon, but Nick also made me a foam hat. I was like, I don't know that I've ever dressed as a pirate before, but I will anytime there's a costume involved, like I'm down. So I dressed up and it was
yes.
really fun. I don't know if I'm ready to join the Black Pearl yet, but it's a good time. There's just something really, really, I keep saying it, but fun about these kind of films. And it's, a good family film. Sometimes the word family in a movie can be a bad thing. Like, in other words, the kids are going to enjoy it, the parents are not, kind of thing. That's what it signals to
Yeah.
me since I don't have kids. But Pirates of the Caribbean is a family film that everyone can enjoy, I think.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I
Would not
forget.
disagree
Yeah. What
at
was the
all.
rating for this one? I don't remember.
PG
Oh,
13.
PG-13. So you kind of have to prepare your kids, I guess. But I guess by the
I
time I
wouldn't
saw it, I was
consider
an
it
adult.
PG
But
13 for anything other than like the Tortuga scene, maybe is a
oh,
little like
okay.
I don't think and then like action and violence. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I don't remember these being that hard hitting. That's like surprising that it
Yeah.
was PG-13. Seems like that would
Because
even be a hard sell for Disney, but I mean, certainly didn't stop people from watching it. So
Yeah, especially in 2003. Think about it.
yeah, that's just interesting. But I think I always thought this movie was like PG. So I guess like also the effects are very good and like it is kind of scary. So maybe for that, I don't. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this film, when you look at ratings for it, it's kind of like, at least on IMDb, it's like 8 out of 10, which I think I would agree with. Maybe the fact that it's such an icon now, maybe put it closer to a 9, but a great film nonetheless. So, are there any other scenes or thoughts you had about the movie that we hadn't touched on yet?
I think so. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, I feel like we did. We did a good job. We didn't cover the whole series, but yeah,
yeah,
just this movie.
it's a great movie and it's a lot of fun in a simple way. It doesn't, and great films don't have to be super complicated.
I
And this
agree.
one is purely enjoyable. So,
And it's 2.5 hours, which, wow, that's kind of long for this kind of
yeah.
film. Definitely a gamble. If you had to summarize, which you kind of already did a little bit, but if you had to summarize, like, what keeps you coming back to it? Like, why do you have such an affinity for the film?
It's definitely, I think, just because of how much fun it is. I really enjoy Orlando Bloom as a character. Like, he was childhood crush number one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So closely followed by the guy who plays William. I think is William Mosley. In he plays Peter Pevensey in Chronicles of Narnia. Another
Oh, is
favorite,
that the
but
guy
that's
that's
mainly
isn't he Nightwing now on that DC Titan show? I think. I know
no,
that.
definitely not.
Oh no, okay. Because I know Brenton Thwaites, he was in the Pirates movies, right? I thought
Yes,
he was.
I think
Pirates.
is he Will and Elizabeth's son in like I think it's movie 5.
Yep, you're right, movie 5. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Got it confused with, I don't know. They look, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Didn't
no.
mean to derail.
The Chronicles of Narnia guy is William Mosley.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that would have been too long ago.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is like a key point for me in like my childhood. Like we constantly kept coming back to this film so much that my dad finally relented and bought it like for my birthday because he was like, I'm so done with like y'all going, we gotta go to the library and borrow this movie. Like just get the movie already.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. And I'm glad that Matt kept bringing it up because I had kind of forgotten about it, but then like watching it again, it's like I really like this movie. I really love it. So
I know. It blends a lot of, I feel like, old sort of like fun action Hollywood tropes of like classic cinema too, and kind of marries it with like a more modern version. I think that it kind of blends the best of both, and it's just like a great fun family film. Like I mentioned already, I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I saw it many times after that, and it's a classic for a reason. How would you pitch this movie to someone that hasn't seen it before?
So this movie, if you're a Pirates person, it is for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
If you really enjoy like a small dose of fantasy with your reality, this would be a movie to check out. It's got a lot of fun in it. It's got a lot of heart. You can clearly see like yes, Johnny Depp is very controversial right now, but he gives a lot of heart into his performances and really makes it his own in a way that not many other actors tend to do. So
Yeah, I agree. He interpreted this character the way he wanted to, not how it was written on the page, and I think it added a lot to the character.
yeah, this character would not be who it is without Johnny Depp. But in other performances, I mean, Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom do really well together. They are like the heart and soul of the romance of this film, of this
Yes.
franchise. So definitely I think it gives you a little bit of that. It's got a little bit of everything. Action, fantasy, romance. It's all right here on the plate. So go check it out.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, I feel like I don't know. Have you been living under a rock, man? Like everyone's seen this movie, but if you haven't yet, yeah, I think everything you mentioned is a really good reason to check it out. Well, Katie, thank you so much, for joining me today for this episode. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. It's at Slice of Katie. That is also my Instagram username. I do, like I said at the beginning, have 2 shows. Star Wars Alliance is on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A in the war. It's very important. Don't forget it. Um, we're covering High Republic stuff right now, so please go check it
Nice.
out. I love doing that show with passion. It really is a passion. Um, Slice of Film is on Twitter as well. It's my film review podcast, and that username is Slice of Film 1. We are having the summer of action and adventure with Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and of course Barbie, because you can't forget Barbie. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Great.
that is the places to find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, Katie, and I hope to have you back soon.
Yes, same here.